seem to get the time wrong. I blow up and then they're all gone, all gone. So sick of saying hold on, hold on. A broken state, shaking the ground beneath, running from everything, seems to be the path I lead. And now I'm beating on the floor, wondering why I feel like a ticking time bomb. Time bomb, always seem to get the time wrong. Time wrong, I blow up and then they're all gone, all gone. So sick of saying hold on, hold on. I took a shot on hoping I'd never change. I wonder why I'm always broken. Stuck in time just like I'm frozen, frozen. Now I'm slowly thinking, a product of overthinking again. Hold it in and change my breathing. Settle down and stop repeating amends. I feel like a ticking time bomb. Time bomb, always seem to get the time wrong. Time wrong, I blow up and then they're all gone, all gone. So sick of saying hold on, hold on. I feel like a ticking time bomb.
Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another installment of Touchline Talk on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. We have these shows every single Tuesday and Friday in the week at 2 o'clock. How are we all doing this afternoon? There is a lot that I want to touch on today, and I wonder if we're even going to have enough time to talk about it in the level of detail that I would like to do so. Because there's been lots of activity going on. Normally in these shows, if it's like if there's like a match coming up, we'll have a chat about the previous match. We'll have a chat about the upcoming match. We'll chat about other topics that we feel is relevant and such. But there's been a lot of things happening over the past few days that would merit its own stream in isolation. But there's at least 3 topics today that I think could merit that. We're obviously not going to have time to do that. So I want to talk about today, of course, the Fulham game, perhaps more so towards the end. We need to have a conversation about Semenyo, and there's something that I do want to speak about on him, which isn't necessarily even about the type of player he is. Of course, I also want to talk about that, but there's a more practical concern, I don't know if concern's the right word, conundrum that I have that I'm hoping that we can all resolve today. I want us to have a conversation about Anderson, who's also strongly linked with City, and also Trafford, who is shock, who I never could have envisaged or predicted this. He's allegedly wanting to leave the club, perhaps as early as January. That seems unlikely, but surely he won't be here next season. I never could have foreseen such an eventuality. Oh my goodness me. We'll talk about all of those things and more if we have the time. We're going to squeeze in a lot on today's show. It's going to be a good one, hopefully exciting. So leave a like on the video if you're coming in. If you want to go the extra mile, hey, there's a link in the pinned comments that you can click to join the channel, to become a YouTube member, so you can get some lovely exclusive videos that regular scumbags, don't get access to. And you also get lovely stream perks as well. How are we all doing today, though, guys? Make sure to leave a like on the video, because I'm such a lovable, relatable guy, calling you all scumbags and frauds all the time. I love you all, really, though. Or do I? I do. Or do I? I do. Hello, Loco. Hello, Yash. Hello, Nobbins, this little bastard. Hello, Leon, Brandon, Naveen, Abinab. Little gold rat there, love that. Hello, Zibbit. Strawberry cheesecake. Thunderstorm. Kigo. Nick. Thunder Road. Razad. Handle Ship. Abdikani. AGF. Sarah says pay rent. Absolutely pay rent, Sarah. Big up to you. Yes, I was ill yesterday morning. It was like Sunday and like early Monday. I was not feeling very good, but I am feeling a lot better now. So thank you very much. I think it's just one of those like classic winter 24-hour bug situations. Yes, indeed, Hydro. Elite is confirmed. Absolutely big up to you, Sarah. Big up to Manny Talks Football. We'll have a chat about Anderson. Absolutely. Pep Nobbins. Hello, Yanko. We're here just like the video. Exactly, bro. Hates driving. Exactly. The governor says Shirky afternoon to you also. Right. Okay. I know that Semenyo is in the thumbnail, and he's also, I think, like the first name on the title of the video, because I made this thumbnail like when the Semenyo news hit. I was like, oh, we can talk about that on Tuesday, of course. But since then, a lot of other things have happened, so we are going to touch on Semenyo. The first thing I do want to like get out of the way as almost like a point of order, because it's been the most recent development, I believe, is that it has come to light via Jack Gorn, and it's not just actually Trafford. In fairness, there's another goalkeeper involved here. And so this is from Jack Gorn. James Trafford and Stefan Ortega are both open to leaving City in the January transfer window, with the Englishman having been told he was joining as first choice when arriving from Burnley in the summer. So, as I say, almost as a point of order, in the first things first, I do want to talk about the goalkeeper situation. Before we get on to the juicy situation with potential incomings, let's first of all chat about potential / almost certain outgoings, shall we? It's no surprise that Ortega's going, like, obviously, because we signed another backup goalkeeper, and we signed Trafford, so like Ortega was all of a sudden became like fourth choice. I don't even know if he's really been involved in the squads at all. So he's either going to go in Jan, or perhaps even more likely, I believe his contract actually expires in 2026. So it may well be that he's just naturally leaves the club because of his contract expiring. That would make a lot of sense. It's a shame for him. Don't know why he... Obviously, like, I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I don't know what's happening in the background, but I don't really get why he is still here, because he's actually a good goalkeeper, and he could be a lot of teams in the Premier League. He could be a lot of those sides starting goalkeeper, but he isn't. But he didn't go, obviously. So, not sure what's going to happen there. No surprise about Ortega. There's also no surprise, let's all be honest, about Trafford. Now, let's all rewind for a second. Let's all rewind for a second to, first of all, Trafford joining the club, and then Donnarumma joining the club, and the dynamic and the narratives that were taking place therein. Because I do feel like I almost have to keep re-establishing what my beliefs at the time were about Trafford, because lots of people either just have ignored or have opted to mischaracterize what I actually thought of the Trafford signing at the time. So I'll repeat it once more here. I did not want Trafford at the club. I felt that it was a massive risk. I was very concerned about him becoming our number one goalkeeper. I was concerned about whether he would be able to make the leap from Burnley to Manchester City. It was going to be a risk. Perhaps it was a risk worth taking. I loved the concept of it, because it's an academy goalkeeper coming back to his club, looking for something to prove. Takes number one, takes the actual number one jersey, shirt number. Don't know why I said jersey. I'm a USian confirmed, and it could be like a really nice story. We haven't been able to chant like England's number one since Joe Hart, and it could have been like a really nice story. But of course, my concerns did linger, and I think I tweeted saying, of all the signings we've made this year, this is the one that I'm least sure about, because I just don't know if he can make that step up. Trafford was nowhere near on my radar for a goalkeeper. I suppose it did make sense. Of course, homegrown academy player. He's good with his feet. He's young. He's inexperienced as well. He's only had like one season of top flight football, so there's a massive room for improvement in respect of ceiling. Perhaps it made a lot of sense, and that's why I didn't hate the idea of Ederson staying with Trafford. If the starting point was Trafford comes in, then I wasn't upset with Ederson staying, because I was like, okay, well, worst case scenario, if Trafford's not ready in his first season, then Ederson can remain as the number one, and he can like learn from him. Maybe like a few months down the line, he can take over. So by the end of the season, he's going to be our number one, and it's like, so we don't have to put all of our eggs into the Trafford basket in his first season. So that's why I didn't hate the idea of it being Trafford and Ederson, even though it wasn't my preferred one at all. We then signed Donnarumma, and I remember it so clearly now, having like arguments with people on that stream when we got to the Trafford section, when I spoke about Donnarumma and said, okay, this is what's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. We then got to like a Trafford section because people were asking in the chat, well, what's going to happen to Trafford now? And we said at the time that, right, well, this is almost definitely spells the end of like Trafford's career at City, and it's not even started. Whether we care about that is irrelevant. What matters is that is the case. Like, it has definitely ended, because there is no world in which Trafford is ever going to compete with the highest paid goalkeeper in the world. That's just not happening. And it was very funny at the time. You can go back to that stream, and you can go see the comments when we got to that section. You had so many people trying to argue the point that, but Nobbins, we can just have both of them as our number one. It's good to have healthy competition. You don't compete with the highest paid goalkeeper in the world. You don't compete with Donnarumma. That doesn't happen. I thought that, maybe and Pep did say, yes, well, they're going to be competing for that number one spot. Nothing's guaranteed. And I was thinking, right, bollocks. But I at least thought, okay, well, for the first game, he's at least going to start Trafford, because he can't just immediately start Donnarumma after he's had that whole spiel about there being genuine competition in the squad, because otherwise that just puts to rest any notion that there is any genuine competition, and it isn't just you've signed Donnarumma to be the number one, and you did sign Trafford to be the number one, but now the situation has changed. And so it came to pass, and he started against United, and it's been that ever since. So, as I say, this idea that there was ever going to be a competition was farcical. It was never going to happen, because when a player is, as I say, is the highest paid player in that position, there is no competition. There is no competition. If they were paid a similar amount, or like it wasn't like too big a gap, then you could have the argument, couldn't you? But there is no, even if Trafford were outperforming Donnarumma, I don't think there's ever a world where Trafford would usurp him, because you've made such a massive financial commitment to a player who's going to be here for like 5 years. That can't happen, can it? You've got to, even if it does not work out well, you've made your bed, you have to lie in it at that point. So it was very funny that people thought that there was ever going to be a true competition between the two. I said at the time, no, that's silly. It's not going to happen. You don't sign two number one goalkeepers in one window. And if you do sign two number one goalkeepers in a window, then you've had a really weird window for squad building. Like, that's objectively bad squad building, to sign like two players who are like, yeah, you're both going to be playing as the number one goalkeeper. That doesn't work. You need to have a number one goalkeeper. You need to have a cup goalkeeper. If you're at this level anyway, if you're lower down the table, then okay, maybe you can have a conversation about that. But no, that was never going to happen here. So Trafford, in my head, was destined to leave as late as next summer. That remains to be seen, of course. It hasn't happened yet, but we shall see. The Ekitike Isak comparisons are that's a false equivalence, I'm afraid. And this is the same mistake that people were making at the time. You can't compare a goalkeeper in respect to competition to outfield players in respect of competition. That's not something that you can do. The two are not synonymous. The two are not equivalent in a remotely similar manner. It is a false equivalence to suggest that it could be anything remotely akin to that. So this was always going to happen. So it's a shame for Trafford. In my opinion, the club did, based on everything like that. And now what I will say is that, and I'll repeat my position, didn't even want Trafford at the club. Nothing's like concrete. This is all just like via respected journalists and whatnot. But you can also you can read between the lines. You can also follow the series of events as well. Let's all be honest with ourselves. Trafford was brought in with the expectation of being the number one goalkeeper. There wasn't the intent at that point for City to sign Donnarumma. If people want to believe that, that's fine. I think that's incredibly naive, personally. It seems pretty obvious to me, based on what's come out now, based on what was said at the time, based on the series of events and reading between the lines and using context in our brains. It seems pretty obvious that Trafford was brought in to do that, and then they changed their minds. So I would suggest that City have shafted Trafford personally. I didn't want Trafford at the club. You can say it's all fair in love and war and business. I think it's pretty, just on a very basic human level, I think it's a bit shitty to do that. But this is a business at the end of the day, so I'm not going to go too much into that. I've made my thoughts on that known. Of course, there are different moving parts, but it seems pretty obvious to me that he was... there was a conversation to be had at the time when he signed that you would be the number one, either this season or like partway through the season, because there is a World Cup coming up, and we know that Trafford has ambitions to be England's number one. We know that he wants to be starting at the World Cup for England. We know that he had the opportunity to go to Newcastle to be their number one. I think there were a number of other opportunities as well for him. He opted to come back here, so we have sort of shafted him a little bit, especially if he's here for a year. Then we've basically taken out a year of his career for no real reason, which I think is a little bit of a shitty thing to do, in all honesty. So Trafford's probably going to be gone next season. No surprise at all there. We called it when Donnarumma was signed, and it's a shame for him, and I think it's a shame how the club has acted, in all honesty. I will repeat, because people get it misguided. I did not actually want Trafford at the club. I don't really care about losing him as a player. I'm just trying to comment on the weird, almost like cutthroat nature of it for an academy player is odd. And I think if you don't feel bad for Trafford, then there's something wrong. To be honest with you, I do think there is something wrong with you, and there's a lack of empathy going on. Thank you so much, Super Chat. Thank you, Super Chat, for the Piplup. Thank you so much for the Super Chat. Is it crazy? I don't want Semenyo. I prefer someone else. Much love, lad. Hope you're well. I'm doing very well. Thank you, Piplup. Let me know who you would want instead. We will get on to Semenyo in a second. Here's a fortune for you, though. You will be called in to fulfill a position of high honor and responsibility. Yeah, and I can see like Mario Razad. You don't care about that. I think that's a very weird. I think that's a bizarre mentality to have for like an academy player who wanted to come back to the club, who wanted to do well for City, who was given, whether you believe it or not, in my opinion, he was given some level of assurance of being the number one, and he obviously loves the club, and you're just like casting him aside like trash. I think that's a very weird thing to do, just on a human level. So I wish Trafford well. I'm sure he'll do very well for another Premier League side. It's a shame it didn't work out for him. It was never going to work out for him once Donnarumma came in, and we will obviously never know what would have been. Hopefully he does do well wherever he goes, though, and I don't actually know where that would be. Perhaps like the Newcastle one is still on, and perhaps that is a thing. So those are my thoughts on Trafford. I think if you don't feel even like a remote bit of like empathy for him, then I think there might be something wrong with you. But there we go. It was destined to happen. It was destined to happen, wasn't it? And I'll repeat. I think that the club have handled that pretty poorly. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel nice to do that to an academy player who loves the club. If like when Chelsea did, was it Chelsea who did that to Chalobah at the time? And of course he came back and that was lovely, but they literally froze him out. That didn't sit right with me. I thought that was a pretty shitty thing to do for the club, by the club, sorry, and I think that we've done exactly the same thing there. That was just briefly on Trafford then. I don't have anything more to say about that. I hope he does do well, and I do wish that things could have been different, and I wish that we handled the situation better, because that's pretty shitty. Semenyo. Now, let's get on to Semenyo, shall we? Because that's the thumbnail. That is the title of this. Well, it's the first name in the stream. Sorry. I also want to talk about Anderson and Fulham. There's lots of things I want to talk about, and I think I need to dedicate a fair bit of time for the Semenyo section, because there is something that has been bugging me. I was going to say concerning, but I don't know if concern is the correct word. It's been bugging me, and it's been something that I've wanted to I want to get people's thoughts on. If you're in the Discord server, you'll know that I may have already messaged you about this to ask for your thoughts on it. I was thinking about this, Jack. There are loads of players that like you can make like a no pun to them. I just thought that was funny. Before we even have the conversation about whether Semenyo where Semenyo plays for City, and whether we think he's good enough, and is he well suited for the club, and that sort of thing. Because I do want to have that conversation as well. And of course, if we sign him, there'll be an analysis video. And it does seem like if there is going to be a January signing, based on the players we have been linked with, Semenyo would be the one, rather than Anderson, who is maybe more likely to be a summer signing. I think something came out today as well that City are not looking to sign a right back this January either, more so in the summer. So if there is going to be a January move, it's based on what we know, it seems likely that Semenyo would be that option because he does have the release clause. But before we get into that, and we'll come to the chat properly in a moment because this will involve chatting. This will involve chat participation is what I'm trying to say. It will involve chat participation. Oh, sorry, there's something I do need to address there. Trafford got a chance to prove he can be number one and failed in the second and third game. Okay, there's some problems here. He had a very good game against Wolves. He made an error against Spurs. He had a very good game against Brighton, was it? And made save of the month. And in my opinion, that's actually been the best save this season. Now, for a goalkeeper who is in their second season in the top flight, I think he was doing a pretty good job, considering he's also inexperienced. This idea that he failed to prove himself, I wanted to move on from the Trafford situation, but this idea that he failed to prove himself is bollocks. Let me just say that. I'm going to push back on that immediately. I didn't want Trafford at the club, so I don't really want to defend him, but that is bollocks. And that's just copium, I'm afraid, from you guys. If you are saying that. I'm going to be fair. I didn't want Trafford, but I'll defend him if people are chatting shit about him, because that's not correct or fair. Fortune for Piplup. Truth is an unpopular... Oh, wow, this is quite apt. Truth is an unpopular subject. How apt. Piplup, thank you for the super chat. I prefer a player like Baena, Valera, or Njai. I think they're more versatile and would suit our system more. Or a rogue shout, Harvey Barnes. You guys know I'm a big fan of Baena, in fairness. Okay. Moving on then to Semenyo, shall we? This was what I was trying to say. I am wondering how many players need to go before the Semenyo signing becomes tenable in my head. By players, I mean, players who can play in the wide areas. Instinctively, you would say, well, 1 in, 1 out. I'm not convinced that that is the case, though. So for example, DS says only Bob, and some people said only Savio. I don't know if I think that 1 is enough. And I'll get into my thoughts, but this is what I want to do as an experiment, and this will involve audience participation. I don't want you to think about each number too much. I want you to go off natural instinct and gut feeling, and don't worry about relating it from one player to another. Just try to do each one independently in a vacuum if you can. This is the question I'm about to pose is only related to Premier League starts at the start of a season. Not necessarily the start of this season, but the start of a general season. Okay? So we have, how many wide players do we have? We have all players who players who can play across that front three, including the striker. We've got Haaland, we've got Marmoush, we've got Doku, we've got Savio, we've got Bob. Is that it? Have I missed? I'm not including Shirky. I am going to include Shirky for the purposes of this conversation. because I'm not sure what the long-term thinking is for him off ball. If we change formation, then this is a different conversation. But right now, he's been playing off ball right wing for a fair bit. So I'm going to include Shirky for the purposes of these calculations. Note how I'm not going to include Foden. I'm not going to include Foden. I'm also not going to include Bernardo, because in my head, this is more so like at the start of a fresh season, let's say. So if we want to put like a year to it, we can say the start of the 26-27 season as an argument, but just generally speaking. I'm going to assume, for the sake of this thought experiment, that one of Savio or Bob gets sold and Semenyo comes in. This is for the sake of argument, I'll repeat. So when I come to Savio and I ask you about Savio, you can think about it as Bob as well, because I know people have said it was going to be Bob, it's going to be Savio. It could be one of the two. Just for my own brain, I'm writing down Savio to stay and Bob to go, but it does not matter which one it is. What I want to know is how many starts do you think these forward players will require in order to not become disillusioned with the club? Also try to base it off past precedents, if they are indeed a City player, or like past City players. Essentially, that's what I'm after. What is the number of starts that we may expect, these players would expect to receive across a Premier League season? So I'm going to do the Haaland one, for example. Based on his career at City, he's a player who's going to get like 30 Premier League starts. This is also assuming like 0 mad injury. Like if Haaland gets injured for a whole season, this changes massively. We can assume for the sake of argument there are no significant insane injuries. I'm going to start by saying that Haaland, yes, basically how many starts they want to have. We can also add in what we think they actually are going to get, because Haaland all these players might want to start all the games, but just because they want it doesn't mean it's going to happen, and they'd accept it's not going to happen. So it's actually a question of how many do they want, but is also realistic in the context, because Haaland's never started 38 Premier League games. Even when he's been like fit or whatever, he doesn't always necessarily start. Haaland, in fact, let me just get the starts data. Yes, the starting data. This is only in the Premier League, only the Premier League. The reason why I'm using the Premier League is because if you include like the lesser competitions like the League Cup, FA Cup, we know that these players don't really see those trophies in that same light. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so much of a problem. I'm using the Premier League because that's, to quote, bread and butter. This is like the competition most people want to play in. So, for example, in his first season, Haaland started 33 games. In his second season, I think that was just the year where he was injured quite a bit, 29 games. The season after that, or maybe it was this season where he was injured, 31 games. So it's going to be low 30s, isn't it, for Haaland? So what number am I assigning to Haaland for league starts? If you want to put like a season to it, let's say the start of next season. How many starts for Haaland in the Premier League, first of all? 30, 30, 34, 32, 38. It's not going to be 38. 32, 30, 30, 30. I want everyone to participate if you can. 32, 34, 25 to 28. That'd be the lowest of his City career. 32, 30, 75, 33. We're getting a lot of 30s and a lot of and a couple of mid-30s and a couple. So I'm going to say 31 for the sake of that comparison. So 31 starts at, well, how many has he started? I haven't actually looked how many started this season. I assume a lot. Has he started every single one so far? He's already got 13. Jesus. Okay, maybe I'll up it to 32. I'm going to say 32. I'm upping it to 32. This is not including any injuries. This is including a normal amount of rotation. So, of course, there might be like some little niggles that a player has in the season, but we can just assign that to natural rotation. I'm not talking about you do your ACL and you miss the whole season. So natural, like little issues or little knocks, but nothing too major. So Haaland's going to play 32 games. Sorry, start 32 games at striker. Reese come saving on FM. Okay, so let's go to Omar Marmoush now. I don't want you to think about a past player that you have discussed when we go down the line. Don't worry about trying to remember what number you've said. I'm noting down the numbers that we're all trying to agree on as an average. How many starts does Omar Marmoush need in the Premier League before he becomes disillusioned with the club? That's really the question. You need to consider their level of seniority in the club. You need to consider their assumed wage. You also need to consider their age and experience also. A 20-year-old wide player is going to be very different to a player who is in their mid-20s or whatever. And how old is Marmoush? I think he's going to be 27, or is he 26 next season? I always forget this. Sorry, he's going to be 27 next season. So this is a player like in their prime. So do bear that in mind as well. I'm going to have a look at last season a bit tricky. If I have a look at Frankfurt's starts, he probably would have been all the way up there for Frankfurt, wouldn't he? But just as a baseline, as a guideline, just to have a little look-see. So last season, which was obviously half a season, he started 17. That seems about right. The season before that, 27. I don't think he was at Frankfurt the season before that, was he? So he would have been somewhere else. Yeah. Okay. What are you guys saying? He'd want 20 to 25, minimum 25 to 30, 18, 7, 15, 20 plus, 20, 20, 25, 20. I'd say 19, 25, 20, 19, 16, 25, 10. There's some very low numbers here that aren't reasonable. 18 to 23, 25, 25, 15, 10 to 15, 27, 20, 19, 25. Would want 20-ish starts in the Prem. I'm also just going to give... So I think it's going to be around 20. I think it's going to be around 20. I'm also just going to, for the sake of comparison, just to compare it to like some of City's other wide players, like Sterling, Sane, and Mahrez, etc. Just to put some perspective there as well. I'm going to assign like around 20 for Marmoush though. Just for your sake. In the treble season, Grealish got 23 in the Premier League. Mahrez 22. Foden 22. The season before that, Foden 24, Sterling 23, Grealish 22, Mahrez only 15. Was he injured massively that season in 21-22? 15 is very low for Mahrez. Season before that, Sterling 28, Mahrez 23, and Sane was still not at the club, was he? I need to go further back for Sane. Season before that, you have Mahrez 21, Sterling 30, and then the season before that you have Sane's here, so Sterling 31, Sane 21, Mahrez's first season 14. So I'm thinking like Marmoush would probably want around what Mahrez was getting, so like low 20s. So I'm going to say 22. I think that's reasonable. 22 starts in the Premier League. Remember, this isn't necessarily what's going to happen. It's what we think the players might want before they become disillusioned. DJ, you are... Don't worry, we're going to get into that. Okay, now, Doku. How many starts does Doku need in the Premier League? We have some data on this because he's already had 2 seasons. So let me tell you what he's already had in his Premier League season. In his first season, he started 18 games. This is Premier League, remember. He started 18 games in his first season. In his second season, he started 16 games. That was a season which was marred more so by injury. So 18 in the first year, 16 in the second year. In my head, he's not going to accept starting time less than his first season. So in my head, I'm not thinking anything below 18, but let me know what you guys reckon. 20, 20, 20 is perfect, says Manny. 20, 22, 21, 25, 25 to 30, between 25 and 15 for Fenway. 28, Doku 22, rising and depending on form. 22 to 25, 25, solid 22, based on Stanley Sterling, 20 plus. I'm a fraud, absolutely. Biased by current form, says Diaz. I'm going to say 20, so I'm actually going to put Doku's like minimum expectation actually is lower than Marmoush. And I think that makes sense because Doku is a far younger wide player than Marmoush. Marmoush is going to be 27 in January. Doku is still 23. He got 18 in his first season, 16 in his second, which he was injured in. So I think a couple more than his first season is more than reasonable for Doku. I think that's more than reasonable for Doku. Okay. Remember, forget all the numbers that you've done beforehand. Don't worry about that. I'm keeping tabs. Savio / Bob, because one of them's getting sold. And I think, so if you prefer to think about this as Bob, fine. If you prefer to think this as Savio, fine. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to say Savio. How many starts does that player need, whichever one you pick? How many starts does that player need without becoming disillusioned and needing to move on? Remember, I'll repeat, this is assuming that we sell one of Savio and Bob and bring in Semenyo. So we only have one of Savio or Bob. How many starts do they need before they go, actually, I can't be at this club and I need to leave? That's the question. Yeah, people aren't understanding the game. Like saying one, Savio is not going to stay at the club if it's one start, is he? Like, what are we doing here, ladies and gentlemen? What are we doing? What are we doing? How many starts do they need in the Premier League without becoming disillusioned and thinking, I can't make it here, I need to move on? DJ says 20 plus, 18 plus, 23, 19. We only have data from last season. Savio started 21 games last season, but Bob was massively injured last season, so he had to start a lot of games. So he's probably not going to get the same number of starts. I think he would have known that as well. 20, 11, 15, 15, 18. I think something with a teen is probably more realistic for Spartacus. For Spartacus? For Savio. 14, 10, 17, 14, 18, 14, 18, 17. How much is starting Girona? Good question. Different vibes, though, in Girona, I suppose. Oh, 20 plus was for Doku, DJ, sorry. Yeah, I don't know when that happened. That's insane. Lads, he's not going to be satisfied with 5 starts. Come on, let's be semi-reasonable. He's not going to accept 5 starts and be a happy boy, is he? Like, come on. You know what I mean? McAtee got 3 starts in the Premier League. So that's like McAtee levels, and he like never had any hope, and then he was sold. It's not about deserve. It's not about what you think about the player. It's about how many do you think they would expect to have, or how many would they require to have without becoming upset and disillusioned with lack of playing time. That's the question. I think that given his age and given the fact that he wants to be here, I think that we can look more so to like what Doku was getting in his first 2 seasons, which was 18 and 16, maybe a little bit less than that. So I'm gonna say 16 for Savio / Bob before they become disillusioned. And we do, and to be fair, that is reflected because we've had a couple of 20s, 15s. I mean, some people being silly with a 1, but that's obviously not a thing. Yeah, 14 there, 16 there, 15 there, 14 there, 17, 18, 14, 18, 17, 19, 12. I'm not counting the 5s. 15. Yeah, 30. Shush. Okay. Next one is Shirky. Do not worry about, this many games here, that many games there. Not interested in that right now. That's going to be in the next section. How many starts does Shirky need in the Premier League to be a happy boy and to not want to leave the club? How many starts does Shirky need? He is an experienced player. He is a young player. In my head, I'm thinking more than Savio / Bob. 16 loses a game every time he doesn't score. 15, 16, 23, 18, 20, 25 to 28, 24, 25 to 30, 20, 25, 15, 23. Mad Hatter, no, that's the point of the game. That is the point of the game. You have to take context into account, so it absolutely is fair because you're literally taking into account context. 19, 20, 22, 100. What's happening? 23, 20. This is for next season, or this is for, like, in theory, the start of a new season. Yeah. 15 to 20, 27, 20, 19, 25 because he's still young, 22, 38, 24. He'll accept less starts this season. He'd want to play Haaland levels next season. This is more so at the start of a fresh season. 22, 25, 67. What's going on? What is going on? For Shirky, I'm thinking a similar level to what Doku would be expecting in the Premier League. So I'm thinking around 20 also for Doku. Well, I've already done Doku. I'm thinking around 20 starts for Shirky, which is basically half. So that's basically you start every other game, which is a lot of rotation, in fairness. That's a lot of rotation going on. And I think I actually might be underselling Shirky there. I think Shirky actually next season may be demanding more, but just for the sake of this discussion, I think that 20 is a fair amount because he's experienced, yes, but he is still young, and I think that'll be fine. I don't think he'd become disillusioned if he were starting 20 games. Now, the last one, Semenyo. This is the hypothetical world where we sign Semenyo on, what is it? Is it a £65 million release clause? Something like that? I don't know exactly. Semenyo is not a young player, also. Semenyo's 25. He's 25, and he's an old 25, so he's going to be 26 next season. On the 7th of Jan, he'll be 26 years old. How many starts do you think Semenyo would need? Love that from Mad Hatter. How many starts do you think Semenyo would need in order to sign for City, but also without becoming disillusioned is the key here, without going, actually this was a mistake and I'm not happy anymore. How many do you think he wants and the minimum he would expect? 0 because he ain't coming here. We're assuming that he is, though, because this is the point I'm trying to get to. 25 to 28 based on league experience. 24, 25, 25, 20, 23, 22 to 25. He's a player we need. His experience, 22. No less than 26. 24. In my world, 0 because we don't sign him. In this world, around 20, maybe a little more. 23, 25 because he literally plays most of the time at Bournemouth. 25 to 30. Easily 20 because he's a new player. 27. I am tempted to give him a similar amount of starts to Marmoush because they are a similar age. We obviously don't know what the wages are going to be, but he's not being brought in on the cheap, is he? Of course. So that's a thing. So I'm just checking something. Make sure I'm not bottled this. Right, yeah. So I'm thinking 22, which is just too high, and I think that's underselling it, by the way. But that's around a similar level to how many Sane and Mahrez were getting, which is the same that we've put for Marmoush. It's just a tiny bit higher than Doku and Shirky, and it's obviously a lot higher than Savio / Bob. Is 20? I think 22 is reasonable. I think 22 is reasonable. Okay, this is where a potential. And this is what it's all coming to. The next thing I want to do, and I do have, there is a method to this madness that I'm doing. I'm not just making everyone say random numbers. I actually do. There is a point coming out at the end of this, and it's something that I've been struggling with, and I'm thankful that you guys are here to help me with it. If Haaland is starting 32 games at City, then that must mean that there are in the Premier League. Then that must mean that there are 6 games in which he's not playing as a striker in the Premier League, which should mean, generally speaking, you would assume Marmoush would take up those minutes. So of Marmoush's 22 Premier League starts, we are saying that 6 are going to be at striker. Maybe 10 left wing and 6 right wing. What do you reckon? Or should we just assign them all to the left wing? What do you reckon? How do we want to break that up? We've got 16 games left to divide for Marmoush. How are we apportioning those games? 16 games left. Are we saying 10 left wing, 6 off the right? What are we saying there? What are we saying? How are we dividing and apportioning that up? I want to assign it to second striker. Well, that technically means, well, by left wing, right wing, we know what I mean. We mean the fullbacks push up and he plays inside. That's what I mean by that. 12 left, 14 right. 12 left, 4 right. Let's do that. 12 at left wing, 4 at right wing. Okay. Doku. Is he just playing 20 at left wing, or are we giving him any right wing minutes? Given that Semenyo can also play at left wing. I would like to just give him all 20 games at left wing, because I think that's his best position. I don't my thoughts on him playing at right wing. But what do you reckon for Doku? Should we just give them all to the left wing, or should we have a couple throwaway at right wing, as Musi says, maybe 3 right wing? Doku up top is insane. Let's give it 1 right wing for shits and giggles. Yeah, because it may well happen. It may well happen. So let's do that, shall we? Let's say 19 at left wing, 1 at right wing. We can always go back to these numbers in a moment, but this is all going to make sense in a moment. Some of you have already figured out what it is I'm alluding to. 1 at right wing versus a relegation side, yes. Okay. I've put Savio here, and I think that's actually probably better than Bob for the purposes of this discussion, because Bob realistically is only going to be able to play at right wing. He's never going to play centrally in the Premier League. He could play, I guess he could play sometimes off the left. Savio, 16 games with apportioned here. The majority are surely going to come at right wing, but surely some are going to have to be at left wing also. So what are we saying for that? What are we saying for Savio? I'm thinking maybe like 12 at right wing and 4 at left wing, something like that, because there will be some games where he starts there. Do you think a more even split of 8 and 8? A more even split for Sachin? How am I apportioning this 16, ladies and gentlemen, for Savio? All right wing, says Thunderstorm. All right wing for Thunderstorm. Pep loves left wing Savio. He does. He does. All at right wing, please. 70-30 splits. 10 and 6. 13 and 3. I'm going to split that in the middle. I'm just going to stick it with the 12 and 4 because why not? I have no idea if these numbers will even work, but there we go. Okay, the Shirky one becomes a little bit tricky. I'm going to come back to Shirky because some of those we might be able to apportion to like the midfield, perhaps, like attacking midfield. So let's start with Semenyo first of all. In my head, he's being brought in more so to be a right winger than a left winger. As things stand, with our apportioning, we've got all the striker minutes locked in. We have a little bit of wiggle room for the left. And we have a lot of wiggle room on the right. So in my head, this is going to be like a Doku thing, but the opposite. So where Doku started 19 at left, 1 at right, Semenyo's probably going to be like, I don't know, 19 right and 3 left. In my head, something like that. I don't think it's going to be exclusively off the right, but I think that in the same way that we've given like Doku 1 or 2 for the other flank, Semenyo is, in my opinion, actually better off the left. So I think there will be opportunities to do that. So I'm going to say that we're going to have 19 at right wing, 3 at left wing. Okay. Okay. I think that's reasonable. So here's the state of play. Here is the landscape. And maybe I should put like the notes thing on the screen, actually. That'll probably be useful, wouldn't it? shall I do that? What screen do I need to go to make that happen? I think it's my internet screen, is it? Should be. Okay. Oh, bloody hell. Right. I need to tab this shit. Tab it. Tab it. Tab it. Tab it. Tab it. Okay. You can only have 38 games at striker, yes? This is assuming a front three, by the way. You can only have 38... Sorry, starts. You can only have 38 starts at striker. You can only have 38 starts at left wing. You can only have 38 starts at right wing. We're going to get into Shirky in a second. Don't worry about it. I'm just adding things up by now. So the 38 starts at striker, we've got 32 for Haaland, 6 Marmoush. For... Oh, yeah, that should be right wing. My bad. For left wing, so far, we have 12 for Marmoush, 19 for Doku, 4 for Savio, 3 for Semenyo. 12, 15, 19. Oh, that works perfectly, does it? Oh my god, I didn't even mean for that to work out perfectly. Wait, is my maths right there? Yeah, we've actually made it perfect. That's actually amazing. We've actually got the perfect amount of left wingers. Okay. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where it becomes untenable, though. And this is what it's been building up to. If we have 4 for Marmoush, we have 1 for Doku. Oh, yeah. You're right. We have 1 for Doku. We have 12 for Savio. 19 for Semenyo. What is that? 20, 32, 36. So right now we have 36 at right wing. That means that there's only space for Shirky to have 2 at right wing. This, to me, is not tenable. This, to me, is not tenable. Because Shirky is not going to play the vast majority of his games not at right wing off ball. It's actually not even close. There's still 18 games left over here, and it's not even close. And this is what it's been building up to for me. Once again, this assumes no massive injuries. But this isn't just a short-term one-season thing. This is also just future squad building and planning. And this is what I'm trying to say. Before we even get into a conversation about Semenyo and whether he'd suit City, I do not think that this is as simple as 1 in, 1 out. I really do not think that. And that's the other thing to note as well. We are not even accounting for any minutes by Foden playing out wide. And you may say, well, he's only going to play exclusively in the midfield from now on. I'd love that to be the case, but hey, he started at right wing against Napoli. He started at right wing against Leeds. So that's not necessarily the case. This isn't even including Foden's minutes, who may play out wide. Or perhaps even like Nunes, who sometimes plays out wide. No, we can scrap Nunes. It certainly isn't even including Foden. This would complicate matters even more so. What I'm getting at is I do not think that 1 sale is enough. Arsenal as well, yes. I don't think 1 sale is enough to bring in Semenyo. I think that you have to probably sell 2 players to bring in Semenyo. Guys, you're not understanding the experiment. We are just... forget about played. Forget about other competitions like the League Cup and FA Cup and even Champions League. The whole fundamentals of this experiment was... And you guys got involved, so you can't complain. Now we've got to this point, just because I didn't tell you what the experiment was. We all agreed this was how many starts do these players expect in a Premier League season in the Premier League? How many league starts are they going to require? And I actually think I've undersold some of these names. I think Marmoush would probably be expecting a fair few more. I think that Semenyo would probably be expecting a fair few more. I think Doku may be expecting a fair few more. Shirky even as well. So I've undersold it. Saying, oh, what about rotation is a meaningless thing to say based on the precedent of what these players have done. Even when we had elite players like Mahrez, Sterling, Sane, they were all still getting like low 20s league starts. So it's all well and good saying, what about other competitions? The best players want to play in the biggest games, and the biggest games are in the Premier League. 16 is low for Savio, says Musty. This is what I'm getting at. I don't think that signing Semenyo and selling one of Bob or Savio or Marmoush is actually enough. I think you have to sell 2 players in order for this to become tenable. It's fine to say, right, but they aren't similar players, and I do agree with that. But I do think the dynamics massively change if you move out a young player who isn't expecting that many starts, like let's say Oscar Bob, because it's his first proper season, he's not going to be expecting to start 20-plus games, compared to Semenyo, who's going to be 27 years old and is going to be expecting to start the majority of league games. That is just going to happen. That is just going to happen. Otherwise, you're going to have a situation where you have an unhappy dressing room, you have an unhappy squad. And this is thinking long term. Sure, maybe they'll put up with it for a year, but then they'll go. And then you've got to either replace him or just accept that you have had to move on 2 players for the price of 1. For me, the Semenyo signing only makes sense in respect of numbers if both Savio and Bob are sold, or both Bob and Marmoush are sold, or if both Savio and Marmoush are sold. I'm going to say Savio for the sake of this argument. Now, you can apportion 7 for Semenyo now. We can knock this down as well to... well, we can certainly get rid of all that. What would that be, 15? 50 now for Semenyo. And now all of a sudden we actually have space to give Shirky some minutes. So what is this, 4, 5, 20? There's still 18 here. There's still 18. So you could just like you could give 18 to Shirky. And then like Shirky plays exclusive in midfield for the other 2. Or maybe you give Semenyo more minutes out on the right and less there. So let's actually do that for a second. Let's say actually... Let's do that. Actually, no, that's going to confuse the numbers, isn't it? This is just for illustration purposes. 18 Shirky, and then Shirky can play 2 in midfield outright off ball. Or striker, leading the press. This stream and your guys' input has convinced me of my thoughts, which was that 1 sale would not be enough to accommodate Semenyo, unless players get significantly injured, or unless players are significantly happy with significantly fewer starts in the league than we are giving them credit for. And I don't think that we have oversold it, sorry. I actually think that we have undersold it. That was just a little thought experiment that I wanted to chat about. Guys, why does no one listen? Like, I'm trying so hard to be calmer on these streams, but it's so hard when people just do not listen and spew bollocks every single other second. I said that we are assuming no injuries. I said that we are talking about Premier League starts only. I said all these things and caveated it at the start. If you weren't here, then fair enough. But goodness me, like rewind the stream and see what the terms of engagement were. I'm trying so hard to not stress out, but you guys make it really hard for me sometimes. Like really fucking hard. Why can't we use our ears and listen? In sum, that is the state of play with Semenyo. Now perhaps we can actually talk about the player. Here's another crash out. People don't listen. That's the problem. I try to be patient, but people don't listen. I don't get it. I don't understand. It's not hard to listen, to use our ears. Anyway, Semenyo, the actual player, though. So let's now not even worry about the let's not even worry about the state of play with starts. Even though I do think there is a problem. If you just bring in Semenyo and sell Bob, I think there is a problem there. Let's chat about... If I take Rodrigo into this, Evan, shut up. let's now talk about what the actual player, and what do we think about the actual player? What do you think about the actual player? Because I think people are quite split on the concept of the signing. What do we think? What do you guys think, first of all? What have I dropped there? I've dropped some paper. What are your thoughts on the player? Because I've seen some mixed thoughts on him. Excuse me. I don't want Semenyo, says Naveen. He's good, but not that good. Semenyo is a good player. I haven't watched much of him. I really rate Semenyo. Grealish better than Semenyo. Where does Echeverry fit into all this? He doesn't. I don't think he's got a future at City. I'll be quite honest. I think the Shirky signing killed any notion of Echeverry having a City career. That's a very good point. We haven't even... Final thing to say on that. What about injuries? What about substitution appearances? Okay, well, what about I throw in players like Echeverry and Naipan and Foden into playing wide minutes as well? How about that? Like, come on. Good player does not fit. He is homegrown, yes. He counterattacks with Bournemouth. It's a gamble with how low blocks we face. I think Rodrigo is a better player than Semenyo, says Navy SEAL. He's two-footed, direct, quick and physical, modern Premier League winger. Good player that could go up another level, especially with the way we play now. Will he be able to play... Sorry, will he be able to fit in Pep's system? We want proven goal-scoring winger like Mahrez, Leicester. I don't know what Semenyo's record is, but I feel like over the past 2 seasons he has done that. Question mark. Let's have a look-see. Let's have a look-see. Because I know last year he had a nice time. So I'm going to include like his first. I'm going to start from his like first full Premier League season, I suppose. So he got 8 goals in the Premier League in his first season. He got 11 in his second, and he's currently on 6. And so he's probably going to get double digits again, isn't he? So he got nearly double digits in his first season with 8. I don't know how many are. I don't know how many would have been penalties though, because I know sometimes. Let me have a look at his penalties. Semenyo penalty record. He's only scored 2, so it can't be that many. I'm pretty sure he scored 1 this season though, hasn't he? He scored 1 this season. And he scored 1 in the FA Cup last season, and he missed 1 this season. What a fraud! I can't even remember that. So it's basically all non-penalty goals. So yeah, 8 in his first season, 13 in his second, and then 6 in his third. By comparison, just because, as I say, like someone was comparing him to Mahrez. What was Mahrez saying? Mahrez got 18, 10, and 13 in his 3 seasons before, but if we're being fair to Semenyo, including his first season, they also have to include his first in the Premier League with Leicester, where he only got 4. So what's that as an average? 4 add 18 add 10 add 13. Is that divided by 4? Was Mahrez... And Vardy was the main penalty taker, wasn't he? But did he ever take them? I'm just gonna double check. Did he ever score any in the Premier League for Leicester? Can't remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's quite a lot. I do actually have to do that. I do have to take those out. Therefore, if we're playing this game, 4 add, 18 add, 10 add, 13 equals, how many did I say? 8, take away 8 is 37, divided by 4 is 9.25. So in his Leicester career, I'm just going back to, I can't remember what the comment was. Someone said we need a winger who can score like Mahrez, basically. So Mahrez was averaging 9 Premier League goals a season. Non-penalty goals, sorry. Mahrez was averaging 9 non-penalty goals a season in the Premier League with Leicester. Semenyo got 8 in his first season. He got 13 in his second season. And he's on 5 in his current season. And he's surely going to get another 5 non-penalty goals this season, considering we are only a third of the way through it. So if you want to make, and I wasn't even going to do this, but if you do want to make the comparison with Mahrez, then Semenyo is actually better. Just an FYI, if you did want to make the comparison between the two in terms of goal scoring across their Premier League careers before they signed for City, Semenyo is actually getting better numbers. That's not necessary in respect to goals. That's not necessarily the same as saying that they are better. He's a better player. I'm just saying that if the conversation is one of all I care about is goals, then you should be a happy boy because Semenyo is actually providing that to a similar, if not superior, level of Mahrez at Leicester. That's the thing to say. What are my thoughts on Semenyo if anyone's interested? I like Semenyo as a player. I think he's really good. I don't think that he's like world class. And there's, of course, no guarantee that he would become a player the same as, like, what Mahrez was at City. But there is no doubt that he would be an upgrade on what we currently have. I'm pretty confident in saying that. There will be a watch-along tonight, yes. I'm pretty confident in saying that. The reason why, because I think some people said, well, why are you not upset? Why are you like content with the idea of signing Semenyo but not Rodrigo? It's because unlike Rodrigo, Semenyo is a player who has illustrated that he is happy to and can more readily play both left and right. Whereas we know that Rodrigo is a player who only really wants to play on the left, so we can say versatile, but he doesn't actually want to play there. Semenyo is a far more versatile winger. He can, as I say, he can play left, he can play right. Good in respect of output for Bournemouth. He's been their best player, of course. And he's homegrown. And he's not going to AFCON this summer either. Sorry, this season either. He's not going to AFCON because Ghana did not qualify, and he is homegrown. So there are a lot of ticks going against his name. There are a lot of ticks. A lot of it makes sense. Whereas someone like Rodrigo was not homegrown and would have required like insane wages and would be expected to play exclusively in a particular position. Semenyo is not going to be that sort of player with those same demands. And he doesn't take up a non-homegrown slot. So it's not a bad allocation of resources at all. It's not actually a bad allocation of resources. I suppose my only qualm with the signing, and we've touched on how I feel that we probably do need to move on 2 players. That's not like a bad thing, by the way, necessarily. I was just making the point that I think we probably would need to move on 2. I don't agree it's a one-in, one-out thing, necessarily. My only potential qualm with it is that Semenyo is better at left wing. He can play at right wing, and he can do very well off the right. If you watch the first game of the season against Liverpool, like Semenyo was tearing it up against Kirkez. I mean, it's not hard to do, but he has had a number of very good performances at right wing. That's not necessarily a problem, but whenever I've watched him, I prefer him off the left. So I suppose that would be my only potential cause for concern, that we would, unless we're doing something totally different with Doku and Marmoush. But it seems to me that it wouldn't make sense to sign Semenyo for him to be primarily playing at left wing. That doesn't make sense in my head. Because we have Doku, who's playing fantastically well and has a very high ceiling. And we have Marmoush, who that's going to be his main position to try to get into the side, surely. Throwing Semenyo in there, another player who is older, experienced, would require a lot of game time, as we just did the breakdown there, makes no sense for me that we would be signing him to play at left wing. So I can only really see it working if he's playing at right wing. I'll repeat, that's not necessarily a problem, but it is weird that all of these, whether we're properly linked with them or not, whether it was Rodrigo or whether it was Semenyo, we are signing a left winger to play at right wing. It's just interesting. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It is a thing. It's interesting. It's not ideal. Perhaps that's just the state of play of the market and available options out there. But as a player, those are my only potential grievances. But he can definitely play and succeed really well off the right. There is no doubt that he offers something different to what Savio does, to what something that Bob does. Another reason why I would be far more up for this signing rather than Rodrigo or someone like him is Semenyo is not a naturally narrow. He doesn't have to be a naturally narrow player. He can operate more so in a more natural wide area. So that's not a problem for him. We know how narrow the squad is. We know that it's not tenable. We will have to, it's either like become entirely reliant on fullbacks, which is not necessarily wrong. But that was another reason why I wasn't happy with moving on Savio and potentially bringing in Rodrigo. Semenyo coming in would be another wide option. So it would make sense if it were 1 in, 1 out, if it were Bob going and Semenyo coming in. That just provides more width to our attack. Not saying that's going to happen, of course. Maybe it'll just be Savio that goes. Maybe it'll be Marmoush who goes. Maybe it'll be, I don't bloody know, someone else entirely, and there'll be a different conversation. Or maybe there's a totally different use of Semenyo, and maybe Doku's just going to pop off in a new position that Pep's thought of that my tiny little brain can't even imagine. So I like the signing for a number of reasons. And I think I'd be happy with the signing. I haven't properly scouted Semenyo, so don't expect. So if and when we do sign him, there will of course be a proper analysis video, and I will properly scout him and be able to identify his key strengths and weaknesses. But he is incredibly strong. We know that's something we chatted about as well before. Which game was it where I was complaining that Savio wasn't an outlet? Was it Arsenal? Can't remember. Anyway, Doku can be that player on the left. We don't have that player on the right. Semenyo is not going to get bullied. And he can be that outlet player. Everton, maybe? Maybe it was Everton, Sachin. Perhaps. Whichever game it was like night and day. It was like we were trying to play the ball to Savio, and obviously he's not strong, and so he needs like the perfect ball into him. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to hold it up well. Doku is the opposite of that. He can do that. Semenyo can do that on that right side. So now all of a sudden, we do have two players who are far safer receiving the ball, I'm going to say, because they can be far more of a reliable, consistent outlet. We already have Doku, very reliable and consistent. We don't really have that we don't really have that right now off the right. As you say, he's also fast. He's a strong ball carrier, absolutely. His chance creation is going under the radar a little bit. I think he's only got like 1 assist this season, but he's created a lot of chances for his teammates this season based off what I've seen anyway. He is naturally right-footed, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's got a strong left foot, so it's not detrimental that he plays. It's not detrimental that he plays on the right. He can be a two-way threat on either flank, in the same way that Doku can be that also. So the signing does make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. If you want to look at pure output, he's getting similar to what Mahrez was getting at Leicester based on the averages and based on what we assume is going to happen next season. That's without penalty goals anyway, which is what he would be happening at City also, because he's not going to take penalties. There's a lot to like about the signing, and I don't really get, because this chat, in fairness, has not been like massively against it. Those with reservations, I think it's fine to have reservations, but I've seen like people on Twitter say that he's like shit, and it's like a step backwards type of signing. I don't like that conclusion. I don't think that's fair. I don't know where that's come from. You could make the argument that he's only had a couple of really good seasons, so it's a bit of a risk. I think that's fair. I don't know if I agree. No, I don't agree that he's like shit or is like terrible. I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with that. And there's of course there's a world where he can maybe go up another level when he comes to City as well. There's no reason why that can't happen. Good player but inconsistent, says Jack. I do think that he is a good player who could become a great player. But I'm not willing to say he's a great player yet. But I think that he's on the cusp. In an ideal world, we'd have another season or two from him at this level, and then I can go, right, yeah. Because I think he was great last season. I liked him last season a lot, and he has been great this season. I just want more of a sample size before I'm comfortable in saying that. But it does make a lot of sense, because he's got a release clause, he's homegrown, he can play on both sides, he's decently both-footed. Olive says, can he grow more? I think he's a bit of a late bloomer, Olive. I think he's a little bit of a late bloomer, to be honest with you. I don't know like what his career was before Bournemouth. Let's have a look. So how old is he now? He's 20. Do you say he's 27 and... I'm forgetting all these lads' ages. What am I doing? Semenyo. How old are you? 26. 26 next season. So let's say he's 25 at the start. So he's 25 at the start of this season. So he's 24 at the start of last season. So he's 23 in his first year. First full year in the Premier League. Yeah, so he didn't move to the Premier League until he was 22. When he was 21, he was in League 2 when he was 21 years old. Is that right? No. I can do numbers. I'm smart. It's the loans that are fucking me over here. So he was 25 here, 24, 23, 22, 21. Sorry, he was in the Championship when he was 21. And then he was 20... Yes, sorry, he was in the Championship, not League 2. That's my bad. Whereas Doku was starting in the Premier League for Manchester City when he was 21. So he's a bit of a late bloomer. To a lesser extent, similar-ish to Mahrez, who was also a late bloomer. People do forget that about Mahrez. That he was also... he also didn't really start to properly kick off in his career until he was about 24 years old. He was in League 2 when he was in his late teens, by the looks of it. As I say, Championship when he was in his very early 20s. So I think there is scope to grow, and I think that he's just... Because we know that progression isn't linear. We know that it isn't just all... Everyone is a fantastic player at 18 years old, and then from there it's all excellent. Well, some players need a bit more time, and Semenyo is clearly one of those players where it took him to get to around 23, 24 before he started to properly pop off, which is similar-ish to Mahrez. So there are a number of parallels there if we do want to make that comparison, It's an interesting signing. I like the concept of it, definitely. It makes a lot of sense, as I've said. In a vacuum, I think it's a wonderful signing. I do wonder who goes. I do wonder how many go as well. Is it going to be one? Is it going to be two? If it's not two, let's say Semenyo signs in Jan, and then we move on Bob, for argument's sake. So that's one in, one out. If it's not 2 in, 1 out, sorry, 1 in, 2 out this season, I would probably anticipate it to be at the end of the subsequent season. That would be my prediction. Not saying it's going to happen. Not saying it's going to happen, but that would be my prediction. The good thing, however, a lot of it does depend on the use of Shirky as well. That's the thing. Because if Shirky can become an out-of-possession midfielder, or we go back to 4-4-2, and he's able to play as an out-of-possession striker, then that changes the dynamics entirely, and all of a sudden my worries go away. That was all assuming we play with a 3, as we are doing right now. If we go back to a 2, very different conversation. And if Shirky's used different, very different conversation, and my worries get alleviated, and perhaps it is just adequate to have a 1 in, 1 out. But let's say, again, that it is Bob that goes out, or Savio that goes out, whoever it may be. That would be good for whoever stays. Just sticking with Savio for a moment, because lots of people have been saying that he's not good enough, etc., etc. The problem with Savio is that he wasn't, or rather he shouldn't have been signed to be good enough for a title-winning team right now. Would it be a lot better for him and more beneficial for him if a more senior right winger were brought in? And now all of a sudden, Savio doesn't have to immediately be excellent at right wing, because now he can be the understudy to Semenyo. There's far less pressure on him having to start, and far less expectation on him also, because now the fans can look at what he perhaps should be viewed at, which is a player who isn't maybe ready to start week in, week out for a side wanting to win the title, whereas Semenyo is. He can take that burden off him, and now you can more readily integrate Savio also. So one could argue that a Semenyo signing would actually be better for Savio than not. I think you can take arguably out of that Musty. I actually don't think it's close. I still think that Savio was one of our best players last season. I'm not letting this season change my mind on that. So there's lots to like about the signing. There's lots to like. People will debate quality. I think that he's good, could become great. There's not many viable right-wing options out there, to the point where Semenyo isn't an actual right-winger. And I do prefer him off the left. But it's definitely, he could definitely still play there. And I like the link. I will scout him properly, like over Christmas or whatever, if the links start to properly heat up, and I will make like a proper video on it. I've realized how much I've been neglecting the chat today, apart from like getting your number, so I'm reading the occasional message, so I apologize for that. Let me catch up on the chat now. Didn't have the traditional academy path, says Fenway. I need to enjoy late bloomer, says Jack. Didn't know Semenyo's homegrown. Yes, he is, thankfully, yes. I didn't know that either until the start of the season, when I was watching the Liverpool game, and I was like in a group chat, and we're like, oh my god, Semenyo could be like a fun little signing for City. And then someone said, oh, like he's homegrown because of like Bristol. I was like, hello? What? I think he was born in London. So massive big ups. Massive big ups. There's a lot to like about him. There is a lot to like about it. I was gonna have a look at some just off the cuff data, wasn't I? Maybe that. I tell you what, that will be the next member only video on the channel, where there'll be like a 20-minute member only video where I look at some exclusive data that I have access to, and we will have like a very quick review of the sort of player he is. If you want access to that video, in addition to lots of other exclusive videos and fun live perks, and you want to support the channel, because this is my job and it's very lovely when people support and are able to, click that link. It's also in the pinned comment. I've decided that's going to be the next exclusive video. We'll look through the data scouting report. Semenyo is a massive fan of Haaland. Nice. Yeah, we love that. We do love that. Get more followers from car names if that helps. I mean, it's a thing. Bob might get loaned, says Sam. I've heard, I'm not going to reveal anything here. I've heard two very different things about the Bob situation, and they are both conflicting. which is interesting. So I don't really understand what's going on there. I've heard things both ways. Let's just say that. Savio in open big games will cook. That Arsenal assist for Haaland was mint. You're not wrong, Denzel, at all. Yeah, I just think he was better. We should keep Savio. I'd personally like to keep Savio ready. I would personally like to keep him. Imagine Grealish and Savio as my withholders wet dream. What about signing a right back? Probably won't happen until next summer, to be honest. Navy SEAL. Savio, weird one, probably wants to be starting for Brazil, says DJ. He also definitely does want to fight for his place. I do know that much. I can reveal that this notion that Savio wanted to go, he was forcing a move. I can confirm that's not correct, and that he does want to fight for his place, and that he wants to stay at City. He wants to be a City player. He's very eager to make it here. I can confirm that. I'd rather take the more proven goal-scoring commodity than continue to risk that Savio will grow into that. And signing Semenyo would allow, perhaps, a more natural thing for Savio. Maybe. He's got an English accent. Yes, I think he was born in London, wasn't he? Even though he represents Ghana, that does happen. Like, Zaha represents Ivory Coast, but he's obviously born in England also. He's a Ghanaian international, but born in England, I believe. That is the case. I'm just going to confirm that now. Because, once again, he was in the Bristol Academy, wasn't he? I'm pretty sure he was born in London. Imagine I've just been capping this whole time. Yeah, he's born in Chelsea. 6'1". Strength and physical profiles are making a return to Stade Etihad. Reveal, definitely not. We haven't even spoken about Anderson yet. That's what I meant. I didn't even... We haven't even spoken about Fulham. There was so much to talk about today. I feared we wouldn't be able to get through all of it. I don't see Semenyo as a low block player, says Victor. He would definitely be given different challenges at City. There's no doubt about that. But he's got that quick burst on him, so I wonder if he could become that. Rejected by Arsenal, went to Bristol. What a guy. I think that he's got the tools to do that. There will be a watch-along. Yes, absolutely. His recent performances, no goals and Cisne games are concerned for you? No, because I still think he's been playing quite well in those games. And we crunched the numbers before. Someone was asking for the comparison with Mahrez, and he is, as for non-penalty goals in the league, matching / outperforming what Mahrez was doing before he joined City. Sammy needs to work on his physical side. There's only so much you can do, though, without like losing what you are as a player, though. Like, if you don't have the frame for a certain build, then you just don't have the frame for it at the end of the day. Does he have the game winner trait out? See, why not? I see him signing for Liverpool. He's been linked with a lot of clubs, hasn't he? He's been linked with Arsenal, Liverpool, City. No idea how valid those links are. No idea where he sees himself and where he sees his future. Like, if he's a player who wants to play mainly on the left, sometimes on the right, then he should go to Arsenal. Because I don't think he's going to be that sort of player at City. Whereas, if he's doesn't really care, and he's fine to play off the right and sometimes on the left, then the City door opens more so, doesn't it? It opens more so. Oh yeah, Grealish was done. Grealish was done a minute ago, easily. Problem with your touchline talks. I have a lecture 2 to 3. Oh, Faisal, sorry about that, matey. Every club, yeah, boring. There's a good Tifo podcast where they talk to one of Semenyo's former coaches. Sold me he's exactly the right kind of player. You mean like as a person, Fenway? That's good. We want lots of players. We do want lots of lovely players, sorry. Good vibes and personalities in the dressing room. That's what we want. Liverpool have fallen back in terms of pursuing him. It does absolutely, Samir. Yes, his career's been over for a minute. Maybe next stream we can talk more so about Anderson. TLDR, I like the Anderson signing as well. He's another one where I think he's a good player, could become a great player. I think he's actually younger. I think, is he 23 years old, Anderson? He's already made it into Tuchel's starting 11 for England, with good reason. Imagine a midfield of Rodri, Anderson, Foden, for example. That would be really cute. That'd be really cute. But Anderson probably wouldn't be happening until next season because Forest are bastards to deal with, as we know. But the signing, given the signing of Donnarumma, Anderson makes way more sense than Reinders as a comparison. Makes way more sense than Shirky signing Anderson. He's got a lot to his game, has Anderson. He's good in tight spaces. He's got a really good pass on him. He's a fantastic second ball and loose ball winner and dual winner generally. He's like this all-action number 8. He can play in a double pivot. In fact, that's where he does play for Forest for the most part, but he can just play more so as a general box-to-box number 8. He's got there was a tweet that I did which basically big up to, I don't know, Ish Deep, I think the account's called. I don't think I've come across it before. Him before, sorry. But yeah, he's called Ish Deep. Big up to him. Go follow him. He's my second most recent tweet. He looks to be a really interesting data account, so go follow him, of course. And he basically did a metric which showed, in fact, this is super interesting. What do you guys notice about this picture? So this picture basically shows how... Make sure to get at in there. Oh, it did it automatically. Excellent. How often players move on ball and off ball, essentially. So it's not just to do with their movement off ball, it's also to do with their positioning on the ball as well. Basically, how much of the pitch do they cover? What do you notice about this collection of footballers? I love the title, Who Has Touched the Most Grass? That's great. What do you notice about these names? What do you notice? It's like we're in a lesson now. Box to box midfield, box to box. Phil Foden is a beast. Look at the names. Look at the names. Prem footballers. Look at the names of the players and why I might be asking it in a Manchester City context. Not all midfielders, though. That's a hint. Ah, Samir's catching on to it. Of course, Foden's in there. But the two players that we are most strongly linked with, i.e. Elliot Anderson and Semenyo, both top these metrics for their respective clubs. That was the first thing that I saw and noticed when I saw this. I was like, oh, interesting. So the players we're linked with are the players topping this chart and cover the most grass, as Ishdip has said. Fascinating. Yeah, we're signing... yeah, get in Soboslai and Polinia right now. I just thought that was an interesting thing. So, Paquetá, a player that we have been linked with. Declan Rice, a player that we have been linked with. I mean, Morgan Rogers used to play for us. Iwobi, by the way, just speaking of Fulham, he's been their best player this season. Tonali, a player that we could potentially use also. I'm not saying it's the case for all of these players. I just thought that was interesting as well. That it's players that we've either been linked with in the past, or it's players who we are being linked with in the present. Can you imagine a Fodenson midfield, guys, supported by one of Nico or Rodri? Fodenson, hashtag Fodenson. Yeah? We're gonna have a Brexit means Brexit midfield. I thought that was interesting. So yeah, big up to there's his art in the bottom right, made by Chadder_Ishdeep. Make sure to go follow him. This is a really interesting piece of data, and looks like he's a data engineer, so he does a lot of this stuff. So if you want lots of interesting data, then go and he's done one for La Liga as well. Sweet. Pedri for Barcelona. What a surprise. What a surprise. It's Pedri for Barca. Interesting. Cool. That's good. I hope he does it for all the other leagues. That'd be really interesting to see. Interesting. 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 Briefly on Anderson there. I like the signing, and we do need to. We can definitely have the conversation about, you know, where does that leave Reinders, where does it leave all the other players? But we definitely do it, because next season, Bernardo's almost definitely gone, and Kovacic should be moved on if he can be. He's basically gone now, but you know, it was apparently a Gula. Is that how you pronounce his name? Gula for Madrid, apparently. So 2 players moving out, but Kova doesn't, this sounds harsh, Kova doesn't really count as a body because we are already overstaffed in the centre. We're already overstaffed. So it's fine. I don't actually have a problem with, in saying we are definitely surely going to move on to bring in 1. That makes sense to me. I don't think we need 2 midfielders. Otherwise, I think it's way too many first team bodies for too few positions. Even if you assume that you play 3 in midfield, then like players who like want to be like starting or whatever, you're looking at you got, if you signed in Anderson and moved on Bernardo, Kova, you've got Rodri, assuming he stays obviously, Rodri, Nico, Reinders, Anderson, Foden. So you've got 5 starting players for 3 positions, and then you have Rico Lewis, who as a depth option. Nico O'Reilly as a depth option. I don't know what's happening with Naipan, but him as a depth option also in this more like overall midfield role. That seems plenty of bodies for me. I think if you brought in another first team midfielder, you're gonna have too many bodies. You're gonna have 6 starting players for 3 maximum positions, and that's without even getting into depth options. Again, someone says Mukasa there as well. Lewis, Mukasa, who can play as Nate, and O'Reilly, who might need to get some minutes centrally also. I think getting another one would be too much, unless like bar outgoings. Obviously, bar outgoings. I'm only including like all-round midfielders there. I'm not including attacking midfielders there. Echeverri, I don't think he's got a future at this football club. I'll be quite frank there. I don't think he's got a future here. Where does he play? We just did the whole thing at the start of the stream of like the attacking options, and I basically conclude you got to move on 2. If you don't, you just move on 1. That's going to make it even more impossible for players like Echeverri to get into this side, and he's not doing himself any favors with the whole not going out on loan to Girona. So I'm pretty sure that he doesn't really have a future. The Shirky I said in the Echeverri analysis video, if we sign a creative midfielder, I didn't name anyone, but it could have been Verts, it could have been Shirky, whoever. I don't really see where Echeverri fits. Where does he go? It's not like Shirky is an old player. Shirky's 21. Foden can play there. Reinders can play there. If we're playing this setup that we are right now, then Doku is playing in his position. Marmoush is playing in his position. Semenyo would arguably be playing in his position also. I don't think there's any room for Echeverri in the squad, and I don't see him, unless massive outgoings happen or something insane happens. I don't know. Where does he actually fit in realistically? Where does he get the game time to actually even compete for a side, for a place? Sorry, at City. I don't think it exists. I don't think it exists. I can't see it. I think he was basically doomed once we signed Shirky. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. Maybe we don't sign Semenyo, and maybe we just bring in Echeverri and play him as a false winger. Who knows? Not me, that's who. Quadil identifies him as generational. All right, well, he should probably be getting more minutes for Leverkusen then. I'm not being funny. If he's generational, don't go back to River Plate then, mate. Don't go back to Argentina where you're not going to develop. Oh, dear. And we haven't even touched on Naipan, Mukasa, all these other players we have in the academy. And Makadu, I think like people are big on him as well. so many situations. So many situations. It's hard. It's hard. When you got so many players, they can't all make it. They can't all make it. It's physically impossible. We have an overly stacked squad now. It's too big now. We need to move on. Players are missing out on the bench. And we've got how many players out on loan? Even more are going to have to miss out by virtue of numbers, unfortunately, for them. Yeah, so many. Barr, Hayes, Echeverry, Naipam, to name some of them. Not even including the academy talents. Toby, shut up, mate. The James McAtee dilemma. I did not see the Hayes performance, but I saw a compilation of it, and someone who watched the game told me he was excellent, who I trust. So that's good to note that he did well against Madrid. It was a draw in the end, wasn't it? Big up to Hayes. Big up to Hayes. There are lots of respect. I was gonna say respect Micah Richards. Oi, respect Sean Wright Phillips, yeah? Respect Nico O'Reilly and Rico Lewis, you fraud. And McAtee. And James Trafford. Yes. Yes. Little swine. Right, we've been live a bit longer than I would normally be for these, but it just goes to show how much there was to talk about, and we didn't even really touch on Anderson that much, or indeed Fulham. If you've not watched the Fulham preview, then what are you doing? I didn't suffer watching a load of Fulham games for you to not learn about Fulham, yeah? So go watch the preview after the stream, yes? Learn about how Fulham play. Learn about how we might set up tonight, based on how Fulham play. Etc., etc. Go do it. Go do it. It is a good video, in my opinion. And my opinion is correct, yeah? I'm not a fraud, I've watched it. Big up to you, Ashkan. Big up to you. Did you like the video, mate? Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it? When's the watch along start? Probably because I do want to have I want to try to have tea before the stream. So I'll probably have an early tea, so maybe like 30 minutes before kickoff. So let's say 7 o'clock start, shall we? Let's go 7 o'clock start for the watch along, just to let me have tea, so I don't have to have a big gap in between the watch along and because there'll be a post-mortem tonight. So you get me? Do you get me? Yeah, so it starts at 7. Musty. What? What do you want, you little bastard? What do you want? Score predictions from the chat? Yes. What do you think tonight's score is going to be, lads? 1-0 to City, that's what I'm going to say. Top 3 preferred wingers? Oh, I don't know. I don't know, Musty. Because I didn't really have a winger on my agenda this season because we've got so many options already. We've already got so many options, so it's hard. I was going to do something then. I was going to do something wise. Was I going to do something wise? Can't remember what it was now. Well, that's an L for me. Forgot what I was going to do. Something on my phone. I got my phone out to do something. Don't know what it is, though. But that's what it was. It was to do with Fulham. You'll know this if you follow me on Twitter. Arsenal are the best team in the Premier League this season from the perspective of conceding the fewest expected goals against from open play. Manchester City are the 3rd best team in the Premier League via that metric as well. So that basically means like the best defense from open play, essentially. Would you guys like to hazard a guess who is second? Would you like to hazard a guess who is second? If Arsenal are first, City are third. It's Fulham. Because of course it's Fulham. Why wouldn't it be Fulham? That's not annoying. So this is not going to be an easy game tonight. I don't think. If you watched the Arsenal game, and you'll know I've already commented on this, because I said so in my preview. If you watch Arsenal-Fulham, Arsenal won because they're fantastic at set pieces, and that's how they scored the goal. Fulham gave them a very, very challenging time. They were very, very solid defensively, and the only avenues for creation for Arsenal that day were out wide or via a set piece. Now, we don't score set pieces, so therefore, we don't even have that to fall back on. So we either have to be very good out wide tonight, because they do not give space in the centre, or we are going to have to create our own space in the centre. How do we do that, you may ask? Well, go watch the tactical preview and you'll find out. But that's just something to note as well. This is not an easy... It's not going to be an easy game by any means. If it does become an easy game, lovely. If we score an early goal, excellent. Amazing. Amazing, beautiful times are had by all. But the precedent is not looking good. It's not looking good. That's crazy. That's one of my moderators as well. That's a wild musty. Any final thoughts, questions before I wrap it up? Because I've been here for far too long. Because people complain that I make these too long. I tried to keep them capped to 90 minutes. But I do... Do Fulham push up? No. Good news. Good news, everyone. As Professor Farmsworth, is that what he's called, from Futurama would say. Fulham are like the worst team in the Premier League at counter-pressing. And they just do not press generally. Let me see if I can bring this piece of data up. Yes, Donnarumma is safe, absolutely. Let me see if I can bring this piece of data up. I think the account... Yeah, EPL... If you're not following EPL Analytics on Twitter, what are you doing? Basically, just go follow on Twitter, everyone that I follow on Twitter, yeah? And you'll be a happy boy or girl. I want the pressing data, please. I would like the pressing data. Where is it? Where is it? So I can show you guys. I think it was only updated after game week 10. What game week are we on right now? Is it 13? I think he's only done it up until game week 10, but the point still stands. Where is it? You little bastard. I'll find it. I'm not ending this stream until I find it. Where is it? It's not. No, that's Arsenal. Average touches in the box. No. Average touches in the box. No. I want pressing, mate. Passes per defense. No, that's not it. Oh, is it? Well, okay. So that wasn't one I was looking at. They are basically average for pressing. There's a really damning one though. There it is. I found it. I'm a genius. Big up to EPL Analytics. Once again, go follow him on Twitter. Look at Fulham in that bottom left. These lads do not counter-press when they lose the ball. This is good. And they do not press generally either. This is good for us. And they do not press against Arsenal either, especially. They just backed off into their 4-4-2 mid-lock. This is good for us. It means that we should not, hopefully, be experiencing the build-up issues that we have had. They are, however, a very good side at building up from the back. So they will potentially be able to cut through our midfield if we commit too many bodies forwards. But that's good to see that they just do not counter-press. This is based on this season, by the way. This is just based on this season. What's with Hall? And he's scoring tonight, don't you worry. That's mad, isn't it, Daniel? If they score first, it's over. 3 set-piece goals and 3. Donnarumma is safe. Do they have pace? They do have some pace, yes. Watch out for Kevin if he starts. Need another assist by Kavard, y'all. Watched impressors like Chelsea, says Shrey's. Eldon's getting carded. Fulham chilled versus Spurs. I can see them fired up today. Hey, some are. Big up to Sarah and Louise. I know for a fact they are in this chat. Big up to them. What are those? Social distancing. Marco Silva was furious at his players versus Arsenal. He was consistently asking them to push high. How's Arsenal so low, says Samir. Well, this is... I guess they don't really lose the ball that much. They don't have to press that much. This is per game. Well, it's per game, though, isn't it? I don't know. They don't really have to counter press that much because they always have the fucking ball. Little saddos. Little saddos being so comfortable on the ball in possession, you little bastards. We need movement off the ball, otherwise it's going to be sideways passing. We shall see what the lineup is. We've been here for nearly 2 hours. Thank you so much for watching today's stream. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did. I think we covered a lot of stuff today. We covered the Trafford scenario. We covered my concern with, is it just a one in, one out with Semenyo, and then we touched on the player himself. We covered Anderson to a lesser degree and like the midfield makeup. And we also had a brief conversation about Fulham. So I think that we did I think this was quite a productive stream. I think I had a lot to talk about. And sorry, I wasn't engaged in the chat as much, but I did have a lot to say. And you guys know I'm a yapper, so I do need to. I need to vocalize. If I don't vocalize, can you imagine what Mrs. Nobbins would? Imagine if I didn't have you guys to talk at, and I say at, yeah. Can you imagine like how Mrs. Nobbins? She'd leave me. You know what I mean? Oh, my wedding ring arrived. Maybe I can show that off on the Watchalong tonight. It's bloody gorgeous. Yes, it is bloody gorgeous. Would recommend looking at my ring on tonight's Watchalong. I would, if I remember, I'll try to show it off. You can't have it though, guys. You know what I mean? You can't have it. You can look, but you can't touch. You can't see from the stars above. Who's that? It's Nikki Bella. I answered it. Love that from Eugene. What am I having for tea? I'm having salmon. I'm having salmon tonight, lads. I'm having 2 portions of salmon also. Yeah? 2 fillets. 2 fillets of salmon. I'm a greedy boy. I want all the oily fish all the time. I've written it down. It fits in my calories. It fits in the calories. So yeah, I'm having salmon. It's going to be elite. Damn, Punch Bicycle, that's crazy. Mrs. Nobbins, Fulham are the worst counter-press side in the league. Oh my god. I did. There was like, I think like the one, because I don't really speak to Mrs. Nobbins about football data, because I've already told this story before, didn't I? The one time where I did actually try to engage in her with a football conversation was when like Twitter was doing the whole Donnarumma's good at distribution because of passing accuracy, and I had to vent. Mrs. Nobbins, I've got to tell you why this is pissing me off. And even she, before I even said the answer, could identify the flaw with that fucking with that data and metric point. Even she could identify the flaw. Oh, that was funny. I've told that story before. Anyway, I'm going now. I'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock. Fulham. I'm pressing the end button. It's going to end. I yap too much. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like on the way out. Click the link in the pinned comment if you want to support, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!